Curtis A reached out to me, said make a theme song for my show. Said alright, just give me all the details, man. And my homie says he don't know. Well, if you're gonna pay me big bucks, cause I might should have something to say. He said, you know what I bring, I'm the customizing king, nothing else matters anyway. So is he gonna have guests? I don't know. Is he gonna go live? I don't know. What time will it be? What will you see? I'm pretty much in the dark, but I can guarantee he'll be customizing action figures, getting paint all on his fingers. It's art by Akerman. It's art by Akerman. Tips and tricks and conversation, sharing his gift with every nation. It's art by Akerman. Art by Akerman. You best get ready, cause now it's time for Art by Akerman.
All right, welcome, folks. It is time for another How'd They Do That? This is the segment where we talk to different artists in the community, and we talk to them about either a custom that they did or a style of custom. We ask them, hey, how'd you do that? Right? And they give us little tips and tricks on it. And hopefully it inspires you guys to go out and do one of your own. So it's just, you know, I've said this before on a few of these, but it's just an amazing community where you've got folks that are willing to come on here and kind of share these tips of the trade, and let you know kind of how it's done, because all of this stuff, you know, there's very rarely any of this that we all kind of invented ourselves as far as techniques. We picked it up from somebody else. We watched some videos, we saw a tutorial or whatever, and it's all about that sharing of knowledge. So that's what I love about this segment, is that, you know, people are willing to come on here and just talk through this stuff. And I love when you guys then, you know, tag that person or tag myself and say, hey, we watched your video. Here's what we came up with. Like that's what this is all about. So got a really fun one for you today. And just a really cool dude. Like on top of, you know, just we're going to talk about a fun technique, just one of my favorite people to hang out and talk with. And it is Dirk Nagel of Dirk's Designs. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
The raccoon noises are intensifying. So I am doing great. You know, haven't been able to talk to you much since Legion's Con. So this is cool. Just kind of, you know, I mean, we've seen each other a few PGG lives and stuff, but yeah, I'm glad to talk with you. And I think we're going to see each other in a little over a month, right? You're going to be at Mythic Con, right?
Yep.
Beautiful. Have you heard? Do you have a table yet? Have we figured that out?
Haven't heard anything yet. So I know, it's getting a little close. So if it doesn't happen, it's okay.
I messaged the PGG. I did a super chat last week, and I said, hey, does Dirk have a table yet? And the answer I got from Pete was, that's between me and Dirk. And I'm like, well, since you're not answering his messages, I think it's just between Dirk and Dirk. So so yeah, you might want to hit him up again. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll reach out again.
You know, Pete's an interesting guy. Like he's
a busy guy.
And I know he's trying to put the con together, and he's trying to do it by himself. The problem is he needs help, but he will not accept help. Like when people offer, like a lot of people offer to help, and he's one of those guys that's just like, no, I got it. But then he's like, I can't get all this done by myself. It's like, dude, just come on, take some help. When people offer it, take it. So
it'll get to the point where it gets too big, and he'll have to, you know, which is a good thing.
Hopefully he gets you in. Either way, I'm going to see it at Mesquite Con. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I would also love to see the cool stuff that you bring, because you got awesome stuff. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because you do one thing. I mean, you do a lot of great stuff, but you do one thing that I think a lot of people look at and go, man, how do you do that? And we're going to talk about that. So here's what we've got. We're going to talk about these Hagnons, okay? Because you've done a lot of these like colored Hagnons. I know, you know, initially there was this whole story where, you know, they were trying to decide whether it was going to be blue or green. And then they ended up getting like some that were blue, some that were green. They got one that was like a half figure, it was like half blue, half green. And we ended up getting both finally. Like we got the kind of green one, and then eventually we got the blue one. But I mean, why stop there? Right. I mean, there's a whole color spectrum you can hit up. So, you know, I've got the first two pictures are just like a whole bunch of different colors of ones that you've done. So tell me, first of all, what inspired you to come up with these different colors? And then, you know, how difficult was it to kind of, you know, create this process or come up with the process for doing this?
So I want to say Cullen did like an April Fool's Photoshop
Mm-hmm.
where he did like Photoshop the color of all of them. So there was a rainbow of Hagnons. It was all 6 there. They're all different colors. And I saw that and was like,
that's cool.
I want that. You know, I want to recreate that and stuff. And at the time, Hagnons were like $90 to $100. I was like, well, I'm not going to dye a $100 figure. So as soon as the blue retail exclusive came out, grabbed a couple of those, was, you know, dyeing them like blue and green, and it worked better with those colors. You can't really dye them like orange or anything like that. Then they reissued them, you know, so it's like I can get
that was like when the mystery
box
box came out, right?
Yep. Yeah, and Hagnon doesn't get as much love as he deserves, I don't think. He's still on the in-stock sale, so like after people see this video, if they want to try it themselves, head over to Store Horseman, $40, you know, grab a couple.
Absolutely. So just as like a little history lesson for anybody that wasn't in the cabal at the time. So we've, you know, we used to get these all-star waves, and actually we've got another one coming out soon, All-Star 6, but I think it might be the last all-star wave we get, because they did not solicit one last year, and I think they're kind of replacing that with maybe some of this new legacy stuff coming up. But you know, Cullen, who Dirk mentioned, Cullen Culp in the cabal, he's one of the admins, was really pushing to get a blue Hagnon. So they used to do with these all-star things, they would do these campaigns, right? And so people would put out these memes and big like campaign posters and all this kind of stuff. And Cullen was relentless. I mean, just like every video that you watched, every live stream, he was in the comments mentioning it. He was throwing out posters. Like, this dude was just, he made that blue Hagnon happen. It never got into All-Stars, but then they ended up putting it in. It was a retailer wave, right? That they put that out. Yeah. So it was like, it never got enough votes from the masses to be an all-star, but Horsemen were like, we got to shut up, Cullen, and we just got to put this thing out there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So they eventually did the blue one, and then like you said, then in the mystery box we got the other one back. So
which I actually grabbed just to have them on hand.
Gotcha. So now what you're saying is the blue one, when it comes to dyeing, you can do like a darker blue or a green, but it's harder to do into other colors because of that initial blue color.
Yeah, that base plastic. Yeah, it usually just doesn't look right. Purple. I've done purple, blue, and green.
Gotcha.
I tried yellow because I wanted to see if it would turn green. And it just is kind of like it's kind of an icky color.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I ended up
but basically a lot of experimentation. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. So I found this on the Cabal. So this is where you had put a post and you kind of walked through some steps. We wanted to talk about this first, and then we'll show some pictures and have you kind of talk through this. So these are the steps. So first, open the Hagnon. Now that's a good step right there. Like you don't want to dye it in the package, right?
No,
like that.
Results may vary.
So. Yeah. So then you've got disassemble the Hagnon, which makes sense. Like you want to make sure it gets into all the little crevices and stuff. So you don't want it together. So you're pulling it apart.
I've found that, it doesn't have to be fully disassembled, but we can talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. We'll pull up the pictures here in a second.
Yeah.
So then you've got place Hagnon parts in a mason jar. Now this is not something that I've seen, because I've seen a lot of people do the dye with the RIT dye and all this kind of stuff, but usually they just throw it in a pot and kind of do it in there. I've never seen this whole mason jar thing. So I really want to talk about that. Then you've got here, boil water, electric kettles are great. Add the synthetic dye. And I'm assuming you're talking about the RIT dye, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll grab a couple bottles and so people can actually see, because they're the same bottles, but there's just a little spot of writing where it says synthetic. So it's easy to miss.
Okay. So make sure it's the synthetic, 75 to 100 milliliters. There are parts taking a volume. So that's not accurate. Okay. Add boiling water. Be careful. Let sit for 30 minutes. Check. Remove the pieces. Save the mason jar, because you can reuse the dye multiple times. Okay. So let's kind of take a look at that. So first you've got the Hagnons, and now there's that first, I mean, really the most important step, opening the Hagnons, right?
Yeah.
And then we see you taking it apart here. So when you said you don't have to fully disassemble it, kind of talk to that a little bit.
So I pretty much, so I just use just a plain mason jar. You can get like a 12 pack from Walmart. I think it's like $10 or so. They're pretty cheap.
Okay.
But then, so if you think like, as long as you can break him down, arms, chest, like you don't have to take off the hands, the gauntlets, like you don't have to take every single joint apart. You can keep the whole arm. You can keep like the head and the neck. Armor bits are easy. The legs, I'll even keep the legs whole if I bend them, and then pretty much just get them to fit.
Okay, so you're not necessarily worried about getting it into all the crevices. You just want them to fit in the jar, is what you're saying. Okay. Because like I see on this picture here where you do have it taken apart. I mean, it's mostly apart, but it looks like you still have like the ankle joint in the foot. And I think you might even have like the armored parts on the bone arms still. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I was originally taking them apart like piece by piece, and then reassembly was taking a while. And when you're doing 6 or 7 at a time, it's a lot. And then like you handle it, and so your fingers start getting dyed and everything. Yeah, so the fewer parts you have to break them down into, I haven't had any issues with parts not getting dyed or anything. So
okay, so it does a good job of kind of seeping into all the different places and getting it covered. Okay.
Yeah.
So then this is kind of the next picture that you had here. So you got the pieces in that mason jar, and then this is that electric kettle that you were talking about.
Yep. Which these are great.
Okay.
It's got all your buttons. It's got like a little base that plugs in. You just hit. So the red button is 212 degrees.
Okay.
Most of them, I think that's like max that it'll go.
Okay.
But
so you're putting it to the max and just kind of boiling that, heating it up. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then so here we see, so on the mason jar, you're pouring in the dye, and whatever that amount is, you said, I think 75 to 100 milliliters. Now, is that okay? Are you pouring in the whole bottle, or what do you?
No,
okay.
No, it's, if you want like a real dark blue, you use more. If you want like a real light blue, that's the one part that I it's not like an exact science as far as how much dye you use. In the mason jar, I might, if I want it real light, I might just barely, fill the bottom.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be. I usually say like 10 to 15%
let me go back
dye
to this first picture, because it looks like on here, so like maybe the fourth one over, which I guess is kind of like an orangish red or red.
Yeah.
It looks like that one is maybe a little bit more translucent than say like the green. Like the green looks like it's a little heavier. So what you're saying is kind of, if you want it darker, use a little bit more of the dye. If you want it a little bit more translucent still, then use less of the dye.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then also like how, like, I think in the instructions I said 30 minutes. You can dye as quickly as like 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
Put the parts in, water, dye, hot water, swirl it around.
So if you want it darker, more dye, longer time. If you want it less, then less dye and less time.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll go back to here. Okay. So you've poured the dye in at this point, and then you're pouring the boiling water on top of it.
Yep. Yep. So I'll just fill it up. One thing, so I had not experienced this at all, and then Van was dyeing the figures as well. One of his mason jars shattered.
Oh.
And it's just a temperature thing. I know these are supposed to be tempered glass, but he mentioned to like put a metal spoon in, and you pour the water on that, and that helps kind of dissipate the heat, so there's not more heat in one area, kind of thing.
Probably want to make sure you're not like pulling the the empty mason jars out of like a cold area beforehand and stuff too, like maybe have it at room temperature or whatever. So okay, good safety note there. So
because and then a couple days after he told me that, I had a bottle shatter right before Legion's Con. I was doing, and actually I think it was that picture from the yellow one. I was doing a yellow one and the bottle just shattered. So now I wear safety glasses at least when I'm doing that portion. You never know. They're all, mass produced. So sometimes the tempering process might be a little wonky. You might have some weak spots. And it doesn't glass goes everywhere. It usually like pops.
Gotcha.
And then it's, you'll have like 2 or 3 big pieces. It's still glass, so you got to be careful, but.
Gotcha. So good note, kind of be careful with the mason jars, maybe try that metal spoon kind of trick. Yeah. Okay. So then you pour the water in, and this is where I don't have a picture of this. So once the water's in there, do you seal that back up?
I usually do. If I'm going to let it sit for, 30 minutes or so, I'll put the lid back on to maintain that heat.
Okay. And then you don't like shake it around or anything. You just kind of leave it alone, or what do you swirl it?
Yeah. I'll kind of jostle around a little bit just to make sure, the dye at the bottom and the hot water's mixed well enough. And
gotcha. So you're not a shaken, not stirred guy. You're a stirred, not shaken guy. So.
Yeah. Yep. And it's hot water. So that metal lid gets hot real quick.
Okay.
I usually have like a full size towel that I'll set stuff on. So I'll wrap it up if I really need to like shake it.
I got to say, this sounds a way easier than some of the other things that I've seen videos. I bought all the stuff for this. I bought all the stuff to dye some parts, and I was watching some videos, and like I saw people that were doing it in like slow cookers or like big giant pot, and they were like putting the dye in the pot, and the pots were getting stained, and then they were using like these wooden spoons to stir it, and that was getting stained, and stuff was in like flying, like going onto their stove and like leaving stain marks on their stove. Like this, all the dye is being contained within the mason jar rather than it being, stirred on your stovetop and stuff. So this looks, I mean, obviously if you're doing, let's say you're trying to dye a troll, that's probably not going to fit in a mason jar. But for a figure like this, breaking it down, put it in a mason jar, it just seems like cleanup wise, this would be a whole lot better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then I'll just take like a little strainer. You don't even have to use a strainer, but you can just pour the dye into another one, leave your parts in the other jar, save that mason jar, go put cold water in the other jar to clean them.
So you're like, so once this is done and you've got, so now you've got a jar that's full of water, dye, and parts. You're saying you're pouring that through a strainer into another mason jar?
Yeah. Once I'm satisfied with the amount of time that the pieces have dyed, I don't have it with me. I think it's probably being washed, but with the mason jars, because the lids come apart, so you have just the ring. You can get like a strainer. You can put a metal mesh strainer. So I'll take the normal lid off, put my strainer on, and just dump it. All the dye into an empty jar, and then all my parts. So I don't have to like fish around and get them or anything.
Now you did say you could reuse that, but it's like originally it's very concentrated, but then you've added the water to it. So now it's diluted. So how do you reuse it if it's already now got the water mixed into it?
So it still has like its potency with the water. The main thing to dye is the heat.
Okay.
So all you have to do is reheat. So like I think this one's purple. Like I have like a half jar of purple dye. If I wanted to use this, I would either add more hot water to it, or sometimes I'll put it in the microwave. Like take the lid off, put it in the microwave for like 30 seconds at a time, because it will bubble up. And I have my own microwave now because I didn't ruin, a microwave or two, but.
Okay, so I understand this. So like if that jar that you have that's got the purple diluted water in it at this point, you wouldn't pour some of that into a new jar with parts in it, because now it is going to kind of it's going to lessen the amount of concentration, right? If you now fill that up with water, you're going to take that actual jar that has the purple, put the parts into that, put more hot water on top of it or heat that up and then go. Okay. So that's what I was kind of confused with. Like, okay, if you start with, let's just for numbers sake, let's say you start with 3 ounces of dye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you fill that up with water and now you pour it into a new jar and now it's diluted. And then you take that jar and you pour 3 ounces of that into a new jar and then fill it up with water. It's going to be less concentrated, but you're saying you're using the whole thing that you saved from the other one and just kind of filling it up to the rim and heating it up. Gotcha.
Yeah. Cause so if your dye concentration is 100%, and you only need 30% to dye effectively, adding that water, so having your dye bath essentially already created, all it needs is the heat to activate it and actually like permeate the plastic kind of thing. So
gotcha.
So these bottles, these are the RIT ones.
Dig in you. Hold on one second. Okay.
Yeah. So all the RIT bottles are like this, but then this one has. It's not going to do it now.
It did for a second.
It did for a second.
Okay.
As soon as I needed to.
It does say synthetic there. Okay.
Yeah. But so this little band right here, there we go. That's the synthetic. And it's got to be the synthetic because this is to dye polyester, nylon, and acrylic.
Okay.
That's what allows it to penetrate the plastic.
So once you've kind of poured that into the other mason jar and now you've extracted the parts, what do you need to like put this in the sun? Do you need to let it sit for a little bit? What is the next step with that?
I just rinse it off with water. It doesn't some people say you should use hot water, cold water. I just put it underneath the sink, run some, tap water on it. And I'll usually shake it up a little bit because sometimes there'll be dye in the joints and everything.
Yeah, because I've heard of some people talk about like I think they call it bleeding, where like over time, like some of that will come out. Like how do you prevent that from occurring?
That's kind of a tough one because it's hard to know what exact plastic different companies use. Sometimes it's a blend. It's not always just like ABS. So some take dye better than others. When I first started dyeing figures, I was doing like Marvel Legends, and the hard plastic of the torsos won't take dye, but like the arms and stuff, softer, rubbery, whatever plastics will. So that's another thing where it's kind of hard to tell how it's going to leach. And if you want to paint over stuff, sometimes that dye will even like leach through the paint. I was working on a custom and it was black dye underneath and I was trying to paint white. And after a couple of days, that black dye would seep through and it would turn gray.
Yeah, I had that when I was doing, I did do some dyeing on my slog repaint. And I had that where I did, like after I dyed the parts black because it has that green skin tone initially. And I was like, what I wanted was more like a black and with a white dry brush. So I dyed it black, did like a gray, did a couple whites. And then after a few days, it started like almost kind of turning brown. Like the black was leaching into the gray and the white and kind of doing that. And I have heard some people say, like, if you leave it out in the sun for a day or two, like sometimes you'll, I don't know, I guess it does something with the ultraviolet rays and kind of locks that color in. So maybe you won't have as much of that. The good thing with these is they don't have paint apps on them, right? Like the Hagnon other than like the eyes, like there's really no paint apps. So you don't have to worry about this seeping through paint or anything. It's just the plastic. So that's the good thing about this one.
Yeah. I think I've also heard people will seal them. They'll dye everything and then they'll use like a matte sealer.
Okay.
There was someone else at Legion's Con that they were using like a pretty high gloss clear coat and it made it look like candy.
Oh, wow.
And
that'd be interesting.
And now I can't remember who it was though, but like, it was really cool looking.
So, so now this one confuses me. Because I listened to I read your steps earlier. I've listened to you go through this. And then I look at this and I know the shield was done by, I think, Eugene Unick, and you did the figure, which Jackie now owns, right? Jackie Yeager and the Cabal. great Cabal member, by the way. She's awesome. But yeah, this confuses me. I don't know what, like, so was it just like you did individual parts in different colors and then pieced it together?
Yep.
Okay. Because so the shield, definitely, I'd have to get Eugene to come on here with that, because it looks like maybe he dipped it in layers and did like certain colors at a time. So I have no idea how he did that.
And I was trying to figure that out too, because you would end up dipping other colors in.
You would think so, yeah.
What
Unless
I'm
he
thinking,
found some way to cover it, and with some sort of masking tape or so. I don't know, because I would think that it would seep through that too. But I'll have to talk to him.
I wonder though if he made like a mold of the shield and then used colored resin in like
that maybe that's
kind
it.
of thing.
Gotcha.
That's like the only way I could really.
So for your part, you basically took it apart and like did, okay, lower legs purple, upper legs blue, waist piece and loin piece purple, and so you did the individual parts and then pieced it together, and it just looks like it all blends through the color scheme.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and I think she took an awesome picture here too, because
it's great.
It with the white and the light and stuff hitting off it looks like it blends a lot better.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But it's just each piece was dyed differently.
Awesome. Well, that's it for the slideshow. So let me remove that and biggin us a little bit. Yeah, that's cool stuff. I really like that. I like I said, I've seen, I've talked about this on that channel, but I'm not an artistic guy by nature. Like that was never something as a kid that I didn't draw, I didn't paint, I didn't, nothing. So everything that I've picked up has been through watching others, reading tutorials, watching videos. And I've seen a lot of dye videos, and I've not seen any of them that use a mason jar. It's all like this messy on the stove, like where it just seems intimidating. And I'm like, man, if I get the stove and the countertop messy, like Darla's going to be mad at me. It's going to be a whole thing. But I got to admit, like this whole mason jar thing sounds very interesting, and it sounds very controlled, to where I'm like, I'm excited. I got some of that RIT dye has been sitting in the garage for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Yeah. And I'm like, maybe I need to get that out and kind of try one of these. So,
yeah, it's all relatively inexpensive. A big pack of mason jars is pretty cheap. Each bottle, like $4.99. I know Hobby Lobby carries it. Walmart carries a few colors. I think even Meyer does, but those are local-ish. I'm not sure if.
Now, besides Hagnons, have you done any other dyeing with other figures that are painted figures? And any kind of difference that you notice there, or any advice that you would have for people that may be dyeing, let's say, like a Tusk Century or something like that?
Since the dye does leach, I would recommend taking everything apart further.
Okay.
Dyeing the parts you want, and then giving it a matte clear coat.
Okay. Do you feel like that with something that's not translucent, that it might take a little bit longer for it to kind of go into the plastic than it does with the translucent?
It does, yeah. Sometimes you can dye over painted surfaces, but you're not going to get like the exact color you're thinking you're going to get.
I'm just thinking about like a Legion builder. So like if I take like this Tusk Century here, like most of his body is just sculpted in this color, right? It's not like there's paint on top of it, but whatever you try to dye it, this color is going to affect that end color of the dye, right? Like if let's say I wanted to, I don't know, make this blue, like I got to realize if I combine blue with this color, it's going to be different than I had. Like if I tried to dye something that was white and I tried to dye it blue, the end color is going to be a little bit affected by the starting color.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. And the other thing too, is I always recommend, if someone's kind of experimenting a little bit, start lighter, because if you just go too dark right out the gate, you can't really get rid of it. You can't like bleach it or anything to pull that dye. So even with like the Hagnons, if I want a dark color, I'll do like 2 or 3 lighter baths until I'm happy with the color. But
baths, they're like that. It's like they're just kind of chilling out, some little bath water. So
yeah. it is a process of elimination kind of thing, and figuring out, experimenting and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some really wonky things happen where I've, dyed a figure and sealed it and painted it and this and that, and then only one part will leach paint or something,
Hmm.
and it was all done
Interesting.
at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. But I think it's also just kind of a testament to the variation of plastics and stuff,
Yeah.
and not necessarily the quality, but parts come from different batches, and you're going to have, little variations here and there and stuff. So there
So
was,
guess kind of, maybe for folks out there, play around, try it, and you're gonna find certain things that are gonna work better on certain figures and worse on others. And
yeah,
but yeah, just experiment and have some fun, I guess.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Like you're talking about with the tusk,
Hmm.
if someone wanted to dye the gray or like a lighter color, I would get the white Sentry. Um,
Gotcha. The science
or
officer.
is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
get the science officer for lighter colors. If you're
Hmm.
gonna do darker colors, you could do the Sentry.
Gotcha.
Um, but then the one thing is, like, if something's already really dark, you
Hmm.
can't, so like the
Yeah.
female, you're kind of, you're just gonna have to prime it,
But that's
or
the beautiful thing
airbrush.
about Hagnon and why it's so underrated is that you're basically, we talk about Legions builders being a nice canvas for customizers to start with. Well, if you're dying,
Yeah,
there's no better canvas than something that doesn't have color, right?
yeah.
So,
And it doesn't have to just be Hagnon. So I showed you this earlier too, but like
oh yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just took the limbs, um, and used the Vorgus 2, and gave him kind of like
So those
blood
are
armor legs.
Hagnon limbs, but
Yeah,
then put with the yeah. So
yeah. So it's just like the bones,
yeah, that's
bone limbs and
beautiful.
everything. I've also seen people do armor pieces for like enchanted armor.
Mm,
So they'll take a Zendi,
hmm.
and they'll put, different colored gauntlets on them that are like translucent and stuff to make it look like lightning or something. Like it's there's
That's
a lot
awesome.
more you can do with just, having a different colored Hagnon. You can mix and match the pieces and stuff. Like I
Beautiful.
just got my Necronominus wave in. I haven't opened up the Undead Army Builder yet, but
Hmm.
I'm excited to get those translucent pieces
Yeah, yeah, that'll be
to
cool.
start messing around dyeing those up too. So
Beautiful. Well,
yeah,
appreciate all the tips today. I did have one more question
definitely.
before I let you go.
Okay.
Are we looking at your paint setup behind you? Is that what we're looking at?
It's half of it right now.
That is
I've
awesome. Like
I've
that is
got
that is cool as heck. It
yeah, I
looks
ended
like
up
one of those like when you walk into like Home Depot and you go into the paint department, they got all the like little swatches of stuff that
yeah,
you got to pick for your living room. It looks like that. Like it's just like this whole rainbow of colors.
yeah,
Yeah.
everything was just in a box. Um,
Mhm.
and I decided to upgrade. I've got a bunch more of these like little acrylic paint stands, and I've
Like
got a
the ones for like
couple.
nail polish, like
These
those type.
ones are actually made for these paint bottles,
Oh, really?
because
Okay.
they have larger, like for Citadel pots, since they're a little
Okay.
bit bigger diameter. So I bought a couple of those, but
Yeah, that's a
you have
nice
to,
setup. I was just sitting there watching it
yeah,
behind you, and I'm like, man, that's super organized. I love that. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, Dirk, thank you for all the information. Appreciate that.
definitely.
Folks, like we were saying earlier, hope this has inspired you to try something. And definitely go get those Hagnons while they're cheap. Go get a Hagnon,
Yeah,
try this and see what you come up with. Tag Dirk, tag myself. We'd love to see what you come up with. If you have any questions or comments, throw those in the comment section. If I can't
yep,
answer them, I'll get with Dirk and kind of see
yep.
if we can't get you an answer. If there's other artists in the community that you'd love to see on this segment that we haven't covered yet, throw those suggestions in there. I'm reaching out to folks all the time, and we'd love to get them on and show you kind of whatever those techniques are that you're looking for. So,
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah, thanks, Dirk. Anything else you want to leave the folks with as far as this process goes, or anything else?
Um, Not that I can think of. Like you mentioned, if anyone has any questions or anything, um, hit them up in the comment section. Hit you up, hit me up. There's the customizing studio.
Yep.
That's always a quick way to get some good answers. So
yeah, that's held in a messenger chat. So if you're interested in joining that, you do some customizing, you want to join the customizing studio, let me know. We've got a chat that kind of goes all the time, and then on Sundays at 1 p.m. we typically get together and have a bunch of folks that jump on to just customize and chat and have some fellowship. So if that's something you're interested in, just let me know and we'll get you added to that. So
yep.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to put you backstage. If you got to run, totally understand. If not, I will be right back with you. So,
all right. Sounds good.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man. Well, there you go, folks. That's another episode in the books. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to try that. So I've got the supplies already. So it's nothing I have to purchase other than the mason jar. I don't think I have any mason jars. So I will have to get some of that, but I would love to try this. This sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds way easier than some of the other ones that I've seen videos on. So hope you were inspired as well. And until next time, keep creating. Thanks.